Juanita.
She is the owner of Juanita's Bistro. And then Roger Garcia, he is with Marwan
And Laredo Main Street.
on Laredo Main Street. And of course, I'm the leader. And I work at TAMU. So we are the board, and we have Kirby,
Part of the board.
part of the board, yes. Yes, we are missing Kirby, who is the director of
Planning Department. Planning and zoning.
Planning and Zoning. John Porter, who is the director of Environmental.
JJ Gomez.
JJ Gomez, that you already met. He's the director of Parks. And before that position was held by Berman. And then we have Mrs. Nettles, who hasn't been at the meetings.
Oh, you need to, her email, because I called her yesterday and she said she never got anything. You need to, I just need to verify your email with you there.
Okay, yes. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna start the meeting officially. So if Bobby, can you do the Pledge of Alliance, please?
Yes.
We don't have a flag.
Yes, I'm a little bit
Yeah.
careful.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'm gonna go to the roll. So we have Guillermo Walls, JJ is not here, John Porter not here, Kirby is not here, Roger Garcia here, Roberto Gonzalez, Gabriela Fernandez.
Here.
Marta Ramirez, who's not present, Priscila Iglesias,
Here.
Cecilia Cisneros, of course myself.
So if I could just comment that Mr. Porter, Mr. Sneidman, and Mr. Gomez were called into a staff meeting with the city manager. It was an unexpected department staff meeting, so they're thinking maybe they can show up a little bit late, but they're not really sure. No matter what, we do have quorum, so we can move on with topics today as usual.
So the first item on the agenda is public comment, so if you want to say something, this is the time.
I thought it was gonna do it.
Yeah, you don't work like that.
Thank you. Any public comments?
Ryan?
This is the time to do it, during the public comment section.
Okay. Well, I can just express our intention as volunteers. We met with the city and Marcela a couple of weeks ago, and basically we have a great interest in keeping the garden alive and would like to figure out what cooperation is needed from all parties involved to move forward with not just funding, but the vision, the creative vision for what that is. You know, it seems like there's been a bit of a stall in communication and energy from all parties, so we would like to move forward and let you know that we have a strong intention of showing up, and would like to know what else you need from us, and would also like to know what kind of cooperation we can look forward to.
Can you explain this? I guess what happened, the transition in December or something, as I understand it. The gardens were locked, was it locked? Cycle house or?
Yeah, so we had been going every Saturday, and then in the middle of the week, a few of us would go and do various tasks. And the first weekend after Mr. Rivera had resigned, we weren't really sure what to do, and then a couple of volunteers showed up, and the gate was locked. So I believe Laura.
Yeah, Laura and myself.
Yeah, I don't know how you. Okay, you were there.
Well, Chris was there, the former city of Laredo worker, but he no longer had the key to go in, or when they arrived, it was already another type of lock.
Okay.
So he told us that from now on, we needed to contact the city, somebody from the city to come and open, or that somebody would be assigned and they would open. At that particular day, we arrived around, I want to say like at 8:30, and it was locked.
And this is Chris Segovia. Do you
Right.
know Chris Segovia? He used to work with Berman, and he was a paid employee also from the city.
Yeah, and prior to him working, he was a volunteer.
Exactly.
So that's how,
Right.
just emerged like that. But we got there and it was locked. So, I believe Chris gave Laura a number, and they called, and one of the gentlemen came over to open the door.
Okay, so they did go.
They did go,
They did
and,
go.
yeah, and I'll just relay that. I think there was a bit of a bad flip because the message that we were given that was relayed to us that morning was that we have until 12 o'clock to get anything out, to get any food that we wanted from the garden, because that would be the last moment to do so,
Like
yeah.
the last
Like
one.
plastic.
Yeah, that was, yeah,
Harvest.
exactly.
Well,
Come get,
planting means
come
harvest.
get anything you,
Okay.
Yeah,
it was almost like, this was just passed on to us, like, come have your piece with the garden, and that's what we did. We're just like, we said bye to each other, and waved bye to the cauliflower and vegetables that we're gonna get harvest, ready to harvest, and we left, and then, there were a couple of people in the group that really hadn't picked up, like, I wasn't planning on going anymore, but then Lauda and Melly kept going, and then they called, and then they opened it up, and so there was evidently there's a lot of miscommunication.
yeah.
And so a lot of the volunteers took it one way, and I know the city didn't mean it that way.
Right.
Yeah, but, so the reason we're here, because there were a couple of volunteers that were just very persistent about showing up. I kind of written it off myself, but a couple of volunteers showed up, and so I started going back.
So what's it been like now? So you get there and you have to call and somebody has to go open, is that kind of how it's been working?
They're there, they go at about 7:30, or, they go earlier than we,
Okay.
7 o'clock, I believe Laura, because Laura is the early bird, so she usually arrives a little bit earlier than all of us.
Mhm.
She couldn't be here today. She was on her way, but she called into another meeting, so. But she usually gets there around 8 o'clock, sometimes 7:30.
Okay, so she has access, or she opens?
There's somebody there, she's not
Oh,
opening
okay.
up. It's kind of understood that we go Saturday mornings.
Okay.
And so somebody's been
Been
there.
there.
That's
Yeah.
the routine
Okay.
for the volunteers, every
Okay.
Saturday from 8 or 9 to 12 or 1.
So 2 weeks ago, or last week, I think 2 weeks
It was 2 weeks ago,
ago,
yeah.
we had a meeting with Mr. JJ.
Mhm.
And one of the agreements is that they're gonna have access through a lock. And they're gonna have the combination, so whenever they need to come in, there will be access to the garden. And then I went also the week after to the garden, of course they were working. And then there were a couple of people from the city, Christie, and a gentleman that I cannot remember his name, but he has the position of Burma.
Okay.
So I don't know how involved, I don't think he's gonna be as involved
No,
in the garden as Berman, but at least this Canseco house, his responsibility is to manage that area.
Who is this, I'm sorry?
Are you talking about Mr. Navarro?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then is there a process now, any volunteers that want to go, is there, like, have you put your name anywhere as like a register, somebody's authorized to go in there, or is there any kind of process like that?
That was the other agreement.
You know what I mean? Like this-
Yeah, they're supposed to establish a log, like a,
Log.
A log? Okay.
not a log, but a
And a
disclaimer, yeah, or not a disclaimer.
Like a
but-
sign-in sheet?
A waiver.
There's a waiver, yeah,
Okay.
so we're all gonna sign a waiver, that gets stored and registered somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, that's gonna be the process so that we could enter independently.
Right, so they will, so the city has their own procedures in terms of finding where or how or when the volunteers any volunteers throughout the city will be working at, but they're gonna be registered as the volunteers that are going to Canseco, and also Hillside,
Yeah.
because Hillside is another of the sites that they work at.
Okay.
So both gardens, they should be registered as volunteers. The city should have some kind of,
So Conseco is just a hub
yes.
of the gardens. So
Yes.
most of the volunteers that volunteer at the garden is at Conseco. There's a few of the core members that are tending to the hillside. It's a smaller garden. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a lot smaller than Conseco. And yes, we also are doing that one. So it's a lot of work, but if you love it, you're there.
And that was gonna be my next question. What do you like so much about, going to the garden? and
For
spending
some
time?
of us, because I've spoken with a couple of the other members also, some of us it's more like therapeutic because we've gone through grief, loss of a child, a mother, a father. So it's funny that we have that in common because we all arrived there at the same time for that. And then eventually it just happens that, oh, okay, we're here because we really love it. So we really like to get our hands dirty and work with the dirt and the planting and learning the process. For myself, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot alongside Mr. Rivera. So I kind of just talked to him and tried to pick up as much as I could because the plan was for me to have a little garden in my house. And right now I have a very small garden because I'm spending a lot of time over there. But my mom has a garden and it's just in my family.
Yeah.
So
Has
for me it's
working at the
educational.
garden helped you with your personal garden or with your?
Yes, for sure, yes. But I'm sure it's helped Derek too also in many different ways, and Ruby, and I know Raquel also is going through a process of therapy also with the garden, and she's a chef. So you have a very good core committee, as I would say, because these are the people that go all the time.
So,
Oh.
I'm sorry, how many are there all the time?
For core people,
Yes.
I would say maybe about 8, maybe a little bit.
4 to 8,
4 to 8,
because,
yeah.
we are volunteers, so it's, about 4 of us have been there every Saturday consistently, but, sometimes there's travel, so.
Yeah.
You never really know. There are a few people I haven't seen in a few weeks, and I'm assuming they'll come back, but, it's hard to plan on working on certain things because you just never really have a count of who's going to be there.
Do you all feel the same way she does about being there, or do you have different experiences?
I have, I can definitely resonate. All of that is true for me. It's not what took me there. It's not what keeps me there, but I can relate to that. I had an interest originally in just sustainable living. I will very soon live probably off the grid, plant all of my own food or most of it. And so Conseco's given me that know-how, that experience of eating my own food. From what I've learned through my expertise in wellness, that's my profession, that eating food that grows in your own environment is the healthiest thing that you can do for your body, for your brain. So that was my primary ticket to going there. Since then, I've become friends with some of the members. But what's happened since Furman left was that there was a real decision for me, because just volunteering, because we go, it's real work. Look, you've been there with us, and I know you've been there too, but it's not just planting and picking food. Like, you're digging out Bermuda, we're there in the mornings, but sometimes it's high 90s and you're out there with a shovel and you're sweating and you're doing work. And I know for me, it's gotten to the point that when Berman resigned, and sort of losing that leadership, I have a garden at my house. I can do that and get my fix on gardening. So at this point, for me to continue going, I want it to be something bigger. And I want to see it have more of an impact. I want to know that I'm a part of a community project that is making like this city in particular kind of, I guess, enlightening it on health. And so we're kind of, like, for me, I'm at this fork in the road where I'm a little bit more active, having my voice heard on certain issues, because I'm either going to not go anymore, or if we're going to do this, it's, you know, and from what I understand, this project already has an intention that's very similar to the intention that we have for it. So it's like, let's either do that, yeah, because just to go at this point, and this is why we only have like 4 volunteers consistently going every Saturday, because there's not a lot of motivation to just go dig Bermuda, plant. You know, at a certain point now that we're all like either a year or a year and a half in, we're repeating the process. There's not a lot of new stuff. Like you go, you take out Bermuda, you treat the ground, you put holes in it, you put a plant in, it grows, it gets watered. You know, you put in a couple of trellises, and then you repeat the process, right? So there's nothing new and inventive really going on. And so to just go and do that, punch in, punch out, it's hard to get volunteers to show up for that. But it's a lot easier to get volunteers to show up and know that they're contributing, or know that there's different healing aspects of being in that group, both for them and then anybody that they know. So that's what I would love to see, and it seems like that's what, I mean, that's what this that's what this group was formed for, this organization, this board, and that it isn't happening right now, but it can.
It has
You know?
the potential
Yeah.
to develop into that. I mean, I started like that because I went as a therapy. And then eventually I was like, wow, this is like, it could be something else. And that's what basically he's saying, because like this area like you have there, it has so much potential, so much beauty, so much history. I have so many ideas in my head too for events, because I'm an artist, I'm a local artist besides doing this. I'm a local artist, nobody knows, because I went out of those events for a while, because it consumes a lot of your time, but on the side, I do artwork also. So, yeah, but right now, I'm really to the gardening, and I would love to see something else develop for the community.
If I may chime in, this past weekend on Saturday, I met with Dr. Skaggs. She was out there with a bunch of students out there, and she was teaching students. There were probably 11, 12 students. She was teaching them how to properly till the soil, how to properly do the rows, what you're looking for, leaving space between so that you can walk through. I mean, and she had them going, and then she would give them instruction, and then they would start doing the stuff.
Yeah.
Some were happy and some were not happy because they were there, but they were there.
She couldn't be here today, but yes, Deborah, Dr. Skaggs, everything that she knows, she learned it through Berman.
Sorry, when you're done, I want to say
Oh
something.
yes, she learned it through Berman, because she was actually, you guys don't know this, but she had lost a dog, because she loves dogs. And I saw her kind of down. And I asked her, come to the garden with me. And she decided to go, and she actually invited my sister, but my sister didn't take to it, because she's like a hard worker. And this is too easy for me. So she went, and she loved it. And she decided to stay, and then it turns out that she's teaching that political, what's it called? Food politics class. So everything she's learned, the process from the beginning to the end, how to till the land, how to fertilize, how to put the minerals, how to plant, what to plant, how to use the machines, how to use the tools, everything she's implementing into that class. So every weekend she has a couple of students going in because each of those students have to do 2 hours every weekend, right?
Yeah, so it's 10 hours during the semester. So whenever they choose to do 5 weekends, that's when they go.
Yeah. So sometimes we have 20 people, sometimes we have 18, sometimes we have 8.
10.
We never had
Well,
It's a big class, it's a 50 student
Yeah,
class.
it's a 50.
Sorry, Mike, that you, well, I was just pointing out that driving by, you see like 20, 30 people sometimes, but that's not the same as like hands in the ground. What you saw, last week was the first week of us figuring out a new system of involving them. We're assigning them that particular garden only. That's going to be their little baby that they grow, and so it's a little bit more efficient in that respect. But that it's a good insight into what it could be, the potential of the garden. But we don't, just because there's 20 students there, 15, 20 students, a lot of times that's really hand-holding and it's a good program. It's a good program, but it doesn't necessarily translate into work that's available, like handiness that's available to us volunteers.
Right, so there are 2 things happening at the same time. I have to talk back as my position of director of the service at TAMU. So the students that go to the garden, so first of all, when we started this semester, or that last semester, we thought, okay, our students can go to Canseco. But then Berman left and he let us know, and we decided right now we have our garden up and running at TAMU finally. So this class was supposed to participate at the TAMU garden. But since Dr. Skaggs is part of the core members, she said, no, absolutely. We're going to Canseco, and that's where the students are, which is good. But in terms of the learning process that is happening, since we don't have Berman, she's trying to fill it up, and she's trying to figure out with the other volunteers how we're going to teach these students that know nothing about gardening, how to approach the garden. And on top of that, it's all this confusion that is happening with the volunteers. Like, there was a lot of bumpings, bumps in the process, but I think talking with Deborah, talking with Derek, me as being the director of service learning, we're trying to figure out how we can support the students' learning. And that's the model that we should have for Canseco. I mean, talking about shared vision, because Canseco should be an educational facility from what I understood at the beginning, or one of the components of this. So, I mean, as Derek said, I mean, this is one way to do it, but I mean, of course, there's a lot more that needs to happen so we can have a good experience. The volunteers are not there thinking, what are we going to do with these 20 students that know nothing, right? And at the same time, the students are not there standing up thinking, nobody's telling me what to do, and I really don't know what to do because they are young. I mean, these are freshman students. So they're 18, 19, 20 maybe the most. I have no gardening experience.
But if I may, I don't want to put the character before the horse here, because the students, that's almost a completely separate issue.
Right.
We're volunteers, and we're not even experts at gardening.
Right.
We're out there in a sense winging it, right?
Yeah.
We're putting stuff in the ground like, oh God, it's growing, wonderful, right? And so the reason for us being here is not to figure out what to do with students. That's sort of in a way kind of falling on us when we haven't even taken the first few steps in trying to manage students as well. we need to know what's going on, because before we can even manage students, we want to know why we're there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, you know, where's the money gonna come from? Where's the leadership? There's no expert. There's nobody we can consult to
Yeah.
figure out what kind of, how to get the pH right in the soil. You know, there's just a lot of stuff like that.
Councilman, if a little bit of guidance here, I'm not sure, it seems like maybe what we might need is either a committee or a liaison between the board and the volunteers, but I know it's not an agenda item. What kind of,
Well, yeah, we did put it on here, because when we spoke to the volunteers about 2 weeks ago, and we wanted to have them represented on our group, so wanted to see how we could do that, is maybe bringing on like a volunteer board member, where they choose a representative, and then they can be that liaison or that communication. So it would be number 8.
So we can discuss the possibility of opening a new position for the volunteers or remove a board member that is not active, such as Marta Ramirez.
Correct.
She hasn't been available. I mean, she left her position at the Texas A&M, so, I mean, we have that position open. But you wanted to...
Yes, all I wanted to say is, like, from everything I hear and from my own experience, like, I don't know what the situation is or whatever, but can Berman be like back? Like as some kind of contractual something work? He seems to be like, no, he's not, doesn't like he is the perfect person for this. He's everyone's leader. He's the person that motivated me to like get involved in this in the first place. I mean, I know he's super passionate and this is like exactly what he does and what he loves to do, and I know he was putting on like so many hours that were not even like, you know, paid at all or from his own time, because he's just so passionate about this, and he's like everyone's leader. He really is. I mean, he's like my teacher in, as far as gardening, and I think everybody else. So I don't know, is there a way he can possibly come back and
at
some
this
kind
point,
of position?
I don't think he, I mean, he's focusing on other things. He's got
I think
his
he's
own
still
plan.
interested.
The,
Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I
reach out to him and see.
I know that I've spoken with him, and I don't ever want to put any words in his mouth, so I'm just gonna give you my perception of what our conversations were. And it's basically, and kind of what I wanted to reiterate to our board member group, is we need to move forward. Because we are at a fork in the road where our volunteers are about to leave. There's an educational program that's happening at the garden, and there's no leadership, there's no guidance, there's no nothing. So if we cannot move forward with our finding an executive director, getting this board insurance, getting funding from the city that we have to receive, then this is all gonna fall through the cracks. And that's kind of where, and this is again just my perception of my conversation with Berman, is his frustration with, he wants to be involved because he's passionate about this, and he's been kind of like leading the force on all of this for years already. But he's kind of at the point too where it's just kind of like, well, if there's no movement or we're not gonna get anywhere with it, then I'll just do my own thing.
But he's still interested.
Yeah, he's very interested, but again, he wants to see that there's some
That he
movement
has
and that
support.
there's
It's more,
movement towards that.
yeah, the functionality, and since there's two people that are restaurant owners, you know, it's like having a restaurant with no dishwashing machine or no bartender, or not being able to charge credit cards, right? Like there is no fluidity in the operation of the garden. And again, Berman's never said to me that that's why he left, but bringing Berman back, that's not the problem. The problem is communication and facilitation with everything.
Yeah, and that's, that's the one thing, I mean, if we don't have, if we don't get the money to be able to hire the director, or we don't have any funds from, like seed money from the city, I mean, we can, as a group, figure out ways to do it, and we're gonna have to brainstorm, and we're gonna have to think about it, right? Or we continue to ask the city for whatever we need and move forward. We've been talking about this since what, October?
September.
September, and this is February, and I mean, it's like 6 months, and we don't have a word on the money or the agreement with, about Canseco, not even the insurance for the work. So all of these things we need to
We
solve.
were working on a lease agreement, right?
Yes,
Yes.
there's a draft somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't have.
So that, if I may, and excuse me, I'm coming in like a bull or something like that, but these are some of the things, because like at the meeting a couple of weeks ago, I was under the impression that that draft was going to be here, presented, discussed, voted on, yes or no. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, and so that I think highlights what's going on, you know? It's like I mean, I miss work for, we're all missing time on things, so we just gotta know that there is an intention to make
Move
progress with this,
Yes,
yeah.
like, where are we going, where are we headed?
And where would it be, yeah, and if we hadn't been, like, what would the garden, like, right now, that thing, we talked about this, Kimber, like, when you let a garden go a little bit, like, if we had not been going these last 2 months, the garden would look like a monkey, it would be out of control.
Yeah.
It would be out of control, it would be covered with Bermuda. You'd have it on your car tires, it'd be everywhere. The city would be infested with it. So, we've been going, like, what would happen if you lost the volunteers? You know, this wasn't our brainchild. You know, like, I don't know how the board was started, I don't know why, when the city purchased that property, but somebody came up with the idea of putting a garden in there, having a community center, and we've been the ones putting the gas money in. And so we, like, let's create it, let's finish the job.
You had one, did anybody send you that draft by any chance?
I don't know if the draft has been finalized. Do you have anything on that one, Kelvin?
We don't have, I don't think we have the agreement. Christian was working on it, wasn't he?
What?
Christian from our legal was working on it. He's no longer with us.
Correct.
I just checked with Jessica.
Well, I remember one time we signed something, I thought that was a formation and that was part of
No,
It is a
the.
formation of
This.
LCOES
Yeah.
as a local government.
Is there, did you have the idea that, you know, there was already?
No, there was never a lease agreement or anything, and it came after. We were like, well, maybe we should operate with a lease because, but it's a little bit difficult, I guess, trying to, this whole local government corporation, you know, we're on the public side, or on the, like a citizen side, you know, we're slowly trying to figure out how the city works and everything. It's, you know, it has its quirks, for sure.
It has a lot of work.
It has a lot of quirks, yes it does, to put it mildly. You know, but, you know, fortunately the organization was established as a local government corporation, which has its pluses. You know, it's supposed to be kind of a synergy between public sector and government, and, you know, so that's kind of been part of the reason why it's taken, I think, a little while for everything to take off. I mean, like Marcela expressed frustration, it's been since September, and, you know, we're kind of talking about the same things here, you know, and, you know, so we understand
I hear you.
your frustration. I mean, so we do, but there are steps that we have to follow in order to get everything checked off, and sometimes it's kind of frustrating.
Right, and there is money set aside for an executive director and whoever else the board decides to utilize. However, the actual process of getting that money into our hands so that we can use it, so we can start the ball rolling, like y'all say, that's where we're working.
But I think that's the problem still, is that that's all theoretical. Like, it's difficult to get these two sides, you know, it's a hard bridge to cross. That is all a concept, but I still haven't seen the point, like, as an example of, like, why is it difficult? Where has the difficulty come from this side trying to get something from this side? Because, like, from 2 weeks ago, there was a draft, nothing's been done, but it's all in the concept of it's difficult to do, but nothing's been tried.
4 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago, what?
No, no.
I mean, we have this issue last board meeting. We had this issue 2 weeks ago when we had the meeting with the Department of Parks. The Parks Department, they said there is a draft.
That was gonna be given to us at this meeting.
Right, and we haven't seen a draft. I mean, I'm as director or chair of this board, I have no power, right? I mean, if someone from the city doesn't say, here is the draft, I don't have any power.
Right, so there's no accountability, and so that it's a dance that'll go on for eternity.
For a while.
Right, until we figure out how to create that accountability.
Or on that regard, I'm happy that Councilman Mercurio is here because he might be the only person who can actually demand, like, this is what we need, period.
I guess also like excuse me, at this point, it's like, so where do we stand? Do we just keep going and doing work? Or what? What is the purpose?
You mean as volunteers?
Yes, as volunteers. Because if you don't have anybody assigned to the crops, who's gonna tend to them? Because we are the only ones that are there on Saturdays. There's nobody from the city there on Saturdays working, like with the exception of
They've
one
been
guy.
with the last 2 weeks.
And they go and cut the grass around and
Basic-
stuff like
basic
that,
maintenance
yeah.
stuff.
But the actual work on labor on the crops, what do you want to get, what do you want to achieve with that?
Now, where are you all getting the seeds and stuff like that? You putting them out of pocket?
Yeah.
Some out of pocket.
Some were
Some out of pocket,
donated.
there's a farmer's market fund.
Yeah, so,
But I went to San Antonio, like, got plants that needed, like, got plants from San Antonio that had to be put into the ground because of the temperature.
They're tiny.
It was a real time-sensitive thing. Going to San Antonio is it's not a walk in the park, you know? It's like, there's a lot of things going on.
Well, so based on the agenda then, what can we, so item 8, discussion of possible action regarding the opening position for consent volunteers.
So,
And sorry, Bobby, if I may, that
Yeah.
doesn't solve anything still, right? Because,
What?
like, the appointing somebody, like a volunteer to this board, it's doing nothing, because the problem here, like, I met with Marcela, and so, like, what's the first item, right? What's the first thing to get done? And she said that we need a lease agreement. They've been talking about a lease agreement between LCUS and the city. And I said, okay, great. How difficult is it to get that done? She's like, well, we just present them with this draft, this legal draft. They agree to it. We sign the lease for like $1 for a month or a year. And we go forward, and so great. And I asked her, like, oh, how realistic is it to get that done?
we are working, and we're working on it.
That's the
That's a
it's the
problem.
we are working on it thing,
Okay,
because
so-
there are no real
So you're saying you can't be there without the lease agreement? Is that correct?
No.
No, I think that well, couple of things. First of all, there's no guarantee that we can continue as an organization with our volunteers, working on Canseco. Like right now, we are at the will of the city. If they want to continue, have that facility open, that will happen, right? The volunteers will continue working there. We will continue to have a service learning course there. We will continue to work at Canseco as a garden, like a vegetable garden. But if tomorrow, parks, someone in the city, the mayor, the council members decide this is going to be another park and we're gonna take all the plants out and we're just gonna put grass on this area, they can absolutely do it. So that's the urgency first of the lease agreement, right? The other urgency is that since we don't have a lease agreement, or I don't know if they go hand by hand, if we don't have a lease agreement, we don't have a release of funds, we cannot get an executive director.
and from what we've been told, that does go hand in hand.
Yes.
We cannot get the funds without that agreement between what's happening at the garden and this group.
Which, I mean, I'm not sure why they're being bundled together. The funds were voted on by the council to distribute it to this organization, which has already been formed. Now, if we want to lease Conseco or some other garden that makes, I mean, it's a different transaction that should be between the executive director and the board.
No, theoretically, you're
Or
absolutely
the
right.
council, right?
You're absolutely right.
Legal
Yeah, I mean, so.
In logical theory, right?
Right,
So
so
what we did a couple of months ago, I'm sorry to interrupt. What we did a couple of months ago was we sent invoices to the city, requesting the funds that had been given to us by council. And,
3 times.
3 times. And the finance department, never really responded anything to us until councilman got involved. And now there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel. The money will be available if we do the lease agreement because the city needs to have some, the city, how did they say it? They need to show that in order to give something, that they're getting something. So what are they getting? Well, we're getting a lease agreement, and it's just this big old circular thing. But I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's kind of far away, but I do see it. Much more than we did in October when we were just sending in invoices and not getting a response.
But how do we expedite this process? Because it's already been 6 months, and then Christian left over at legal, so now we're kind of, who was our contact at legal department to move forward with that?
Because the organization should be able to, at will between our synergy, right? That's why it was created, to be able to decide on a new lease or on a director, or we need to be able to move freely and not ask legal for, organizational advice every single time. Because like you said, if we want to buy some shovels, well, we need an operational agreement on how you're going to lease that out, right? Or we want to hire somebody, it's like, we need to make sure we have a contract. I mean, that should be something under the control of the board. We need our independence, right, to a certain extent to be able to move.
Well,
You're right,
at
but-
least the first time it needs
Okay.
to, and that's
So
just
they're saying that we didn't-
establishing the first time has been the hardest. I mean, once we get it done once, I assume that.
Well, that's what I want to make sure that, if it is, that's what it takes, right? Then to make sure that that doesn't happen again, right? And I think that's one of our responsibilities, is to make sure that we're not put in this position again after the initial.
And I really don't think we will, because once the initial money is passed on to LCUAS, then it's over, we're in charge of the money.
Until October of next year.
No, because it's a one-time payout. It's a one-time payout.
Those are annual, so we're getting 3 years or 5 years worth?
That was a one-time deal. Now, I could probably put you on third-party funding
Maybe.
and maybe designate some funds from the city through the third-party funding.
One way that this is actually shown up, it happened last week. Without a lease agreement, it's sort of like washing a rental car. It's like nobody washes a rental car, right?
Right.
And we showed up, so I show up with $150 worth of plants from San Antonio, and then Mr. Novato's there, who's a wonderful employee. He should be Employee of the Year. He does a great job, but he's just acting, on command from above. He shows up and he's like, oh, I bought 60 jalapeno plants, right? Do you want me to go get them? And, I'm holding my little tray. I'm like, oh my God, the trouble I went through to get this, right? And they just, and they're ready to plant. And so then I explained to him the situation. Not to mention, those plants were from Lowe's, and they're Bonnie plants, which is a Miracle Grow company,
Right.
which is affiliated with Monsanto. So those are GMO jalapenos, right? Look at the acronym of this board. You'll see how that's that's not sustainability.
So how did you end up approaching that?
I cried a little bit. He picked me up ever so gently, and he brought them back. And so this past Saturday, Dr. Skaggs and I and Marcel, we talked about how to manage the students. And so we decided like 2 days before that the students would get this one particular garden and that's what they work on. So then 2 days later, I showed up, I walked in, and then Mr. Navarro and another employee were tilling. They'd already done 2 rows of that particular garden that was supposed to be for the students, and they were gonna start putting jalapeno
Yeah.
plants in there, right?
So you caught them in time.
I caught them in time, but they went ahead and put them in a different garden, right? And so what's happening is that the city just wants to see things planted.
Yeah, so how should we,
Well, that lease agreement, because then that lease agreement makes us, I know, but it's because that's what's gonna give us
The control of the
ownership
rights.
of that garden. And so then we can lead what that's gonna look like on the grounds. But right now, we're kind of like, well, we can't really tell the city what they need to do. We can advise them maybe on, through maybe y'all's guidance or something, but, that, like, I know that it's kind of like paperwork that none of us want to, or even would like to participate in, but it's essential for us to even invest in that property, because what if, let's say, it takes us another 6 months to get this garden, volunteers have invested money, Main Street has invested some funds, and whoever we can, let's say $1,000 goes into the garden, and then they make it into a park.
are you saving receipts? by the way?
Well, I'm here.
But I mean, just, you know,
But that's
theoretically,
true, that could happen.
and we could not have any control over it, so.
Sorry, I was gonna like,
No, it's not.
I
It's
thought it was
just-
a 3 year.
No, it's just the one, how much was it, 175? And
It's-
then,
One,
It was 125 for the garden, 75,000 for the procurement of trees.
So,
But
I
see-
mean, who's gonna take a 1 year job?
What if it's
Cost
not
of
a 1 year
It's,
job?
it's part of their job to
It's always-
raise money
Yeah,
for
yeah.
grants,
You get
to pay their own salary.
Yeah, you get 125,000 to start up, and now,
yeah.
you know,
And
start
that's
with
fine.
grants, more
And
grants
that's
come
fine,
in, you
because our
know.
executive director can do that. It's like me at Main Street, you know, we have, you know, some seed money from the city, but it doesn't cover all of our expenses. I mean, we
But
need
it's
to
ongoing, it's every year. And
Yeah,
if we didn't
because
have it
we-
every year,
establish that.
yeah.
So the first request was the seed money to kind of get it started. Once we can show the city and present to them, look, this is what's been done, this is what's been organized, then we can approach the city, hey,
Third party.
third-party funding or coming up
So-
for your
Well,
If you can't raise money in the second most unhealthy city in the United States through an organic, sustainable garden that has wellness events and educational events, then then it just can't be done.
Yeah.
so
So-
that's the other thing, so we can continue going in circles, right? Like,
Yeah.
because, I mean, I totally in my head, it's very clear. We need that lease agreement, we need the release of the funds, we need to hire someone, right?
Yes.
But in the event of, and this is why I believe that having the position of the volunteer being a representative of the board is important, because you need to have a vote on this.
It's not unimportant, yeah.
Right, because in the event that the person that is hired for 1 year decides like, I want job security, and he or she leaves, right, and we have the same issue again, right? So what can we do as a board? What kind of organizational structure we can think in a different way that this can happen? I mean, the lease agreement will continue to be pending, and we can, I mean,
I think if we had a timeline on the potential of getting the draft back, or not even the draft, the finalized lease agreement, then we could start to try to get someone, right, start asking for the actual.
I mean, we had, the timeline we had was this meeting.
This meeting.
Yeah.
Like, we already had
But
it.
should we be taking in
But anyway,
applications already?
so we're still here, we still need the lease agreement.
But I mean, do you think we should maybe start asking for, or opening up the position so that we can start receiving applications, so that instead of, now we get the funds and we still need another 3 months to hire somebody? You know?
That's what number 6 is.
Correct.
Right, number
Well,
6.
so should we wrap up public comments and get into,
And again, I said this, a version of this 2 weeks ago at the meeting. It's sort of like opening, you have a car problem and you're not really sure where it's coming from. You open up, you pick up the hood, and then you see where the leak is. You see where the problem is. You're able to at least diagnose it. To me, this demonstrates where the challenge is coming from in getting this draft agreement. There's nobody that's accountable to it. Nobody knows how to take action. It was an agenda item from 2 weeks ago that was set forth in an email, and there's nothing happening. That's exactly where the noise
But I think
is.
it's the city that's telling us that we're gonna receive something. We need to figure out with the councilman today is what can we do to, where do we get that from? Because we're being told, you know, from our different contacts that we're gonna get it at this meeting and then it's never received, so
Yeah.
we need to.
Regardless, as soon as we find out, that needs to be resolved. That's where the
If
And all
that
those
doesn't
things.
get resolved, if that doesn't happen within the next month or 2 months or whatever, there, all those plans that you put there, all that time and effort that you invested there, what do we do after March?
Yeah, I mean,
You know, we cannot keep going and keep putting plans in there and,
Yes,
you know,
agreed.
because the volunteers also need to make
Yeah,
a choice.
Yeah.
They also need to decide, there's 2 gardens here,
Yeah.
there's not just Conseco, because I'm also thinking about Hillside.
Okay.
So that's why I say, like, we as board members are at a very at that point in the fork of the road. Like, we need to push this forward.
Hello,
Hi.
sorry I'm late, we had staff meeting.
We,
Okay,
okay,
so,
Can we wrap up
Sorry.
public comments?
yes, so, we're gonna move on from public comments. This is John Porter. These are some of the
Hello.
volunteers at the garden. They were expressing a little bit of frustration because they're working. Since we don't have a lease agreement, they feel that they're working towards nothing because in theory, if we don't have a lease agreement, the city any day can come and say, this garden is
Well-
closed, we're gonna put some cement here.
Okay, I just checked with management,
Okay,
and from what they understand, and then we're gonna check with legal right now, they're still waiting for LCUAS to put together an agreement that says, okay, this is our defined roles and this is what we're doing. Is that correct?
That sounds correct, although I don't know if legal had drafted something or if,
Who did that?
we talked about that last meeting and we said that our articles of incorporation or our states, our purpose and everything,
The mission.
the mission.
It's in the mission PDF, which is online. The sustainability, the original mission and vision is online already, and it's a plan for 5 years.
And the presentation that was given to council when these funds were designated to the group is that. It's telling you kind of what the group would do and all of that. So how do we move forward now? What would be the recommendation?
Well, the recommendation is I'm gonna go over there and rant and rage and holler and have them give me a check. And then I'm gonna put it on the agenda and I'm gonna rant and rage and holler in public, so. Because it's starting to stink,
Yeah.
it's starting to smell already. Well, I have management right now, they're checking with legal, so I'll get an answer today.
This is the original document you all posted. It's very detailed.
yes.
Some of the items are shuffled a little, right? But that, according to
I guess
that, that's a 5-year plan that you all had. It hasn't reached a 5-year plan yet. The cutoff. And you also have the original document from Mayor signed on 2019, where this board was established with detail of what each of you are, doing in your role. It doesn't have a role for the volunteers.
Yeah, yes.
So,
And that's why today, that's item number 8, I think, we're going to go that we have a representative from the volunteers. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
we need to,
because
do we move? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna add, we cannot move forward with the volunteers that we have right now because the ratio of the garden, and not only that, we cannot promote it because we don't have access anymore to the
social
to
media.
the social media, so it's at a standstill.
I spoke with Viviana Frank and she said that she does have the access to that. She just needs somebody to be appointed to manage that.
But at the last
social
meeting,
media.
they said,
Berman
Parks,
had it.
oh, Berman had.
Yeah,
Oh.
Berman
Permanent,
was-
but not be,
Viviana has access to it, so we can get it from her. But I just want to ask the group who do I designate for that?
That particular, the social media that is Birmingham, it has LCUAS attached to it.
yes,
So
it's-
I'm not quite sure why Berman was the actual social media poster, or if he was like the person that
He
It
created
was a
it.
city
He was-
contact, is what it was.
Okay,
city contact, and he was the chair of the NCIS board.
And then he was just the very active participant at the garden, you know.
so
he was at the-
there was no backup for it.
Well, he's the guy who knows. I mean, he knows all of that.
Yeah, but we have access to the social media, it's just a matter of appointing somebody to that, and I can have, Viviana give access to that.
So if you want to choose a person to be that social media contact, we can actually give that person access.
Nobody to turn to. You're the last one. He sat in the wrong chair.
So,
But again, we are volunteers. The LCUAS board are the ones that are making the decisions and,
Yeah.
you know, they have in their, on the document, there's somebody there for marketing also.
Oh.
So that
So it should not be the
So they
volunteers.
can work together?
Yeah.
No, I think we need to kind of follow also procedure, right? Whenever we're in these meetings, we have an agenda.
Yes,
We have
that's
to
it.
follow through with what our agenda item. One thing, the social media thing can be easily resolved on the back end without that having to be an actual agenda item. But having the volunteers on our board is important, and it's gonna link us to you all so that we know your needs. Because without you all being at the table today or in previous meetings, we would not know, unfortunately, what was the environment there. So it's a process, it's just a procedural thing, but it needs to happen in order for the future of the organization to also be successful.
Okay, so let's move on.
can we move on to item number 8?
Can we move on to item number 8?
I
Okay.
second that, if he wants to motion it.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to remove the urban livestock advocate and change it to volunteer representative.
I second that motion.
Any opposed? I'm sorry.
That's
You
okay.
say that. You said
No,
that.
you know, that's not my forte. I'm happy with it anyway. That is not my formal way to do things. All in favor?
All right. Okay, so motion passed.
So motion passed, so we're gonna have a
Volunteer representative.
volunteer representative.
So if the volunteers can speak amongst yourselves and elect a representative to be a board member, we would love to know who that would be.
Probably Dirk. At last meeting, he was invited to the board, so.
Sarah passes this way.
Congratulations, Dirk.
All right, thank you.
Well, we have to motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next meeting, what would you do?
How often are the meetings?
Every month?
Do we do them the last Tuesday of the month? I think that's what we do, right? Or no, that's not set.
It should be, but
I think that's what we do.
That's what we've been doing, right?
Yeah.
Last time it was a Monday, I was like, Monday at 10 a.m. is gonna be tough.
Yeah.
okay, so
We'll find out.
Madam Chair. Back to you.
Okay, so we are on, I want also approve the minutes from last time, if you can take 2 minutes to look at them and approve.
I motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
One second.
Good. All right, so minutes passed. Item number 6.
Item number 6, so there is a discussion about openings. So we do have a draft of what the director's position would look like. I want to take the time right now to approve that, like, final, I can share with you the draft. So if everybody is in favor for approving the draft of the director's position, this is the time. So, motion to approve the draft.
Reading motion.
And
Just a second.
The last one.
the last one will be sent. So that will be the draft, and that will be the one that is going to be posted. I looked into options for where to post these, and it costs about maybe $500 to $300 in different websites. For example, there's LinkedIn, there is the Laredo Morning Times also charges some. Where else? I think Indeed, we looked into that one. There's an organization that is called Idealist.org, and they do a lot of nonprofit organizations, and all of them charge something to post that position. I can send you the document. I forgot to send it to all of you, but I can send you the prices of how much it will cost.
I know like the Texas Workforce is one that's
Texas
free. That's always a good one.
Can't we do it through Facebook on our website?
We could do that.
So right now, there's a motion that, they're just technicalities, but is everybody okay with that? Can we-
Yeah.
motion- can
All
we-
those in favor? All those in favor? Aye.
There is this, or I did meet somebody who would be perfect for it a few weeks ago. He stopped by Mile 1, and he had some ideas on, he did this in Dallas. The exact same, urban sustainability, and they were feeding hundreds of people per month. I mean, entire families, that's where they got to that point. So I'd like to see if we can maybe make that connection, I'll get some more information on that so we have a point of contact. But that would be maybe one thing to hand over, right, and tell them this is what we're trying to create. I'll get the name, but it was incredible the way they started using also the actual soil and then redistributing it in different gardens and selling it, also to create sustainability within the organization. It takes time,
Yeah.
but
That was one of the things that, I'm sorry,
No, it's okay.
that was one of the things that the volunteers had actually thought about, an event, a future event where each of us, we know somebody that doesn't have enough food on their table.
yeah.
So we would sponsor a family and, present them with a basket or something for their family. And that would be like a future thing.
Yeah, it was all part of the church, so I think they had a network where they had the churches, the churches had gardens and they would exchange soil and then, seeds
Seeds.
and then distribution of food would happen every month or week. And it created that sustainability component of hundreds of families.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about, what's the vision, right? What's the purpose of all this? And that may be something that can help us, at least like, this beacon of light, right? We're seeing it fast approaching, but this may be something to get us through in a certain period of time.
I mean, if anybody else that knows someone that would like to have this position, of course, that they can send the application, and as board members, we might be able to interview them and decide who will be the best person for this position. So I'm gonna continue moving forward. There was a discussion about board insurance, and John, do you have any more information about insurance?
So they said that we qualify, and they're supposed to give us a quote, and they wanted to know who the contact person would be. I said I'll be the contact in the meantime, but I don't know if the board wants a specific person to.
In most organizations, it would be like the secretary.
Guillermo?
Okay, if the board's fine with that. then.
Through who?
Through TML.
That's municipal. Okay. So they will contact me, or I have to contact them?
Yes, the regional person's supposed to get in touch with either me or you.
Okay. Yeah, by next meeting, I will have talked to them at a price.
We move on to the next item that we covered, item number 8. And then we talked also about the updates on the bank account.
Yes, yeah, no, just because I have to keep putting money in every month,
Yes.
so they don't close the account, so if we can,
How much money do you have to put every month?
I forget the exact charge, I put under in, it's, I want to say $25. So we can just get a, I mean, I'm sure I'll get reimbursed, but but still, you know, just
And Councilman,
one more expense.
Councilman Martinez just let me know that they don't have a finance plan from the board, and that's why they haven't given us a finance plan. We never talk about a finance plan.
Legal is saying there is no finance plan from the board on how to spend the money, which is pending from,
There is, so it's on a director and then on the,
On the volunteer.
so there is a plan that has been submitted?
Not submitted, but, well, I don't know if anybody has submitted it, I don't know, Roger.
it was part of the inquiry.
It was stated when it was passed what the monies were for. Is that the same thing or? not?
And so
my-
you put it in
my other
writing,
question is-
in the narrative?
My other question is, why
We
are,
have a volunteer reporter here that can probably put it in writing.
and then my other question is, well, why are we finding out about this 6 months later? You know, why didn't we find out about
Like,
this?
hey, you need this, oh, you did
So
that,
they
oh, actually, no,
approved-
you did this, oh, you did that too, well, actually.
I'm just curious, like, why didn't they tell us this when they approved the funds? Said, okay, your funds, but you need to turn in a finance plan so you can get it. You know, I mean, I'm sure it's beyond all of our kind of comprehension, but it's just a little bit frustrating.
They keep changing the scope on us.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe I can put it on the agenda, the check presentation, a check presentation to LC on the agenda. And if there's no check, it'll look pretty bad.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
So the recommendation is we kind of just put it in writing, from what we, because when the funds were designated to the group, it was this amount, 125,000 was for the hiring of the executive director and the volunteer coordinator, plus the trees, which was, I think, I remember that.
I think it was 125 or 50.
And 50, right?
I think so.
To total 175, if I'm not mistaken. And who would we submit that to, legal department?
City manager's office.
City manager.
We'll go through that. Attention, Rosario Cabello and Robert.
Okay. So,
I'll hand deliver it. Just let me know when it's ready and I'll put it.
So is this, are those our articles of incorporation?
Yeah, I'm going through it, and the closest thing I can find is annual budget, the executive director is responsible. Annual business plan, the executive director is responsible.
so Mr. David, I don't know, who you would want to designate to, or who our treasurer is, because I can't recall, but, should,
I'm the treasurer.
would you like to put that letter together so that we can get it to the councilman?
I think Viviana can help you with that. Okay, we get together with Viviana. She's the one who filled me in on this.
And she's well versed.
Yeah.
Because
So-
expenses have to come from the director, right? We need them to know, they know what we need to buy. So I guess the only part would be the allocation of the funds for the director and,
Yeah, but I'm thinking it's more like a grant application, right? Like, these are.
I'll talk to you again.
Yeah.
I'll start
Yeah.
there.
Now, it was 125 or 175?
It's 175, but I think 125 was for a director and
Yeah,
volunteer.
budget at 125, 125 for 2 staff members. All insurances must be in place in order to hire someone.
But evidently we need seed money for that, I mean, it needs to be,
And then there was, for trees, right?
Yeah.
75,000.
Was it 75?
It was 75.
Same
For the propagation of trees, I don't know what that means.
200 total?
Okay, then I'm thinking we're going back to the circle,
Propagation.
because if we don't have board insurance, they cannot release the funds, is that what
No,
that's saying? Okay.
I don't think so.
There's some notes that I have.
Can you please read that again?
I said budgeted 125,000 for 2 staff members. All insurances must be in place in order to hire someone, but this came from here.
Okay, so in order to hire someone, yes, okay, yeah, but we need the release of the funds.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
can pay the insurance, we can hire someone. Yeah. Okay, so Bobby, you're going to
Yeah.
create finance. Okay. You can send it to all of us through email, or you can send it to me, we can. This is her copy, but I have a copy of that,
And it's posted.
and it's posted, yes. Okay, so are we still on the,
okay, we've already completed 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're on 9 now.
9? We're on 9, so we have to do the finance plan. Our understanding, John, is that if we don't have the finance plan, they cannot do the lease agreement, or how is that working? I don't understand. Can you?
No, I think the lease agreement could be a separate instrument.
Okay, yes, we agree on that. Okay, so do you know anything about the lease agreement?
No, I know legal was working on that.
And who's Neil now?
Valeria.
So is there a way that we can touch base with her?
Yeah, I'll call Valeria.
And then there was a petition from the volunteers that if, on the lease agreement, we need to be very clear about what kind of plants, seeds, and where is this coming from in terms of sustainability.
Yes, we need to make sure that
practices.
the plants are,
Or that we have
Should I-
completely authority to decide what is going to be.
Creative control.
Yeah,
Or creative
Right.
independence or autonomy. rather.
yeah,
Better word.
autonomy,
Yeah.
independence for what is going to be planted at the Sunset Garden.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't think that's good.
So, I mean, if they're drafting something, if that can go on the draft.
We're talking about, yeah, we're not talking about changing the structure, we're just talking about that the board wants to be able to, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, the board or the organization wants to be able to have autonomy in deciding what plants go.
Yeah, that's probably an interim thing, because eventually a director
Yeah,
would be in charge of that.
right,
And if there's a lease in place,
right,
that's just kind of
right,
as a buffer.
right.
And right now, we're concentrating on, I want to make this clear, we're concentrating on the crops, the area where you go in to your left,
Mhm.
right?
The
We're not
two
talking
garden-
about the pollinator garden, because that's additional over there.
Right, yeah, that's,
That's something else.
Yeah, and the volunteers did express to us at the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, that for the number of volunteers that there are and how big the garden is, they're kind of just focusing on one section of it. So there'll be some maintenance done on the other one so they don't get all crazy, but it's not gonna be full-blown, full garden.
Right.
So just so our board is, on the same page with that, I know that, which is understandable, of course.
Yeah.
Whatever can be managed, right?
Yeah, and then the day that I visited, it's like a really big area for a core of 8 people. Plus 10 new students, but I mean, they're doing their own little garden. And there's a lot of grounds to cover. So we still depend on parks.
Yes, and we are, our culture department still goes in there and do whatever we can
Right.
on the parts that are not being covered by the volunteers, by Mr. Noado and his crew. So again, it's very delicate and make sure we do it right, and this is nothing to do with any little thing, so we got to make sure we follow the instructions and they know everybody. So we're trying to keep it, we go in there once, maybe twice a week. It's part of our schedule to go in there. It's still maintained, so, and I see it every day, because I drive by the office there every day, so I get to see it. So on the park side, yes, we're maintaining it.
And thank you for your participation in that.
Sure.
Now, you have one person that is there on Saturdays, right?
Correct.
And what is his role and what is his duties?
So on Saturdays, from 8 to 12, and we discussed this with the web meeting we had, he is opening, well, to help you guide or any of our volunteers, any equipment, anything that needs to get reached, equipment that needs to be used, any assistance. They are so knowledgeable, but they're not, of course, the experts on it. But they have directive to make sure that they cooperate with the volunteers, make sure they hands-on. If they need anything, to make sure that they kind of give. I actually told them, get some volunteers and take them over there with you. The stuff that you can do during the week that they can help us. For example, cleaning some of the beds that needs to get cleaned the right way. So there is an instruction on that. We have every Saturday we rotate. My forester is now going to be there pretty much every Saturday with another assistant as well. So we have a good meeting, and we're here to help, and we want to make sure that we make it as best as we can. That is, you can count on the department on helping with that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will say it's been, ever since that meeting, it's been 2 weekends, but Mr. Nevada's been there with an assistant. and
Right.
It's worked out beautifully. And the first weekend you were there, we had a water problem. Some of the contractors broke a line, so
Right.
we weren't able to get the water. These are things that we wouldn't be able to troubleshoot.
Sure.
So it's been nice.
Yes, it
to stay that way.
And it's always going to stay like that for as long as I'm
And
here.
yeah, and Mr. Novato and I are forming, communication bonds that are working out. Yeah, so we'll be able to communicate on
Sure.
what's needed.
Sure, we're just going to make it work whatever we can, and with the best of our knowledge and the best of supplies that we can.
But it's the same thing for Hillside?
Yeah, we want to, yes, ma'am. I know, Hillside. We talked about it, a lot of, we should maybe coordinate, now that we're getting better weather now, that we can maybe coordinate during the week, or if we want to do Saturdays as well, then we can, be alternating with him.
Well, what we're doing is because I go to this one,
Mhm,
to the Conseco,
mhm.
which is a hub. I'm a core there, and then on Sundays, some of the members decided to go to the hillside because we weren't sure what was gonna happen. So part of the core is over there, maintaining hillside, and by the core, I mean maybe 4 or 5 people.
Okay,
And these are, one of the ladies that was actually over here who was pretty knowledgeable on a lot of stuff, so she's been helping me over there as far as the timeline and, no, you don't put that one there, or you do this, and, so I'm kind of clinging to her to learn more.
The hillside has a combination lock.
Yes,
Right,
it
is it
does.
still there?
It has a combo lock because there's nothing,
not
it's just the
It's a couple of plants.
yes, and a couple of shovels and stuff like that, but it's not like over there.
Right.
But still, it takes a lot of work to maintain the land, because there's a lot of Bermuda grass
yes.
that keeps coming back.
Yeah.
It's the same as consecutive, only at a
Smaller
smaller.
scale.
Yeah, so we appreciate you cutting the.
Sure, sure. No, well, in our rounds, every week, our weekly plan is they do the hillside now as well. So if you want to meet there a certain day with your group, maybe we can coordinate something.
We've been going every Sunday,
Okay,
with the exception of this Sunday, but we've been managing to go every Sunday from 9 to 12.
okay,
And then once the daylight savings changes, we were going Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 6:30 to like 9:30.
Okay.
Because at Hillside, when the sun goes down, the lights go on the side of the building. So all of it is, lighted. And there is a camera there, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, no, that way we can schedule, when do you want to start the Tuesday, Thursday?
When
After,
the time changes,
After.
because I have more people that are wanting to go during the week, not necessarily on the weekend.
okay.
So,
Yeah, Sunday would be kind of difficult, because we don't have employees that work on Sunday, but
yeah.
I can definitely schedule on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that I keep somebody back.
Yeah, it would probably be either Tuesday and Thursday, because once
Okay.
we get going, we'll figure out what day is best.
Sure. Okay. After daylight savings time.
Yeah, so right now we're doing Sundays, just to kind of sort of coincide with them, and then we do Conseco, we do Hillside to kind of do parallel things, because over there at Hillside, everything is growing slower, because we're like a little bit behind on the planting. But it's
I thought it was
very.
because a different councilman.
I don't do politics, I do dirt, like gardening, I don't know. But I do know that it's a part of the Laredo Active Living, and there's a signature on it that it's part of this particular project also.
Oh, yes.
On just to add this, on Saturdays, there, water, y'all have waters there, do you need anything water, do we need some water jugs there on our, we have, that we can supply for you all, or everybody brings their own drinks, or what?
Yeah, we're
What can
good
we
there. Yeah, we're good there. Yeah, everything's set in that way.
I just want to go back
Thank
to asking John. Okay, is that I don't want to be confused. So we're going to work with a finance plan to get the funds released,
Right.
right? And then on the other hand, so that's what you're going to create
Yes.
that. And then on the other hand, John, you're doing the lease agreement with legal? Or should we assign
Lease agreement, Valeria, and I think I heard you say that you were gonna also,
Valeria and Priscilla?
I'll look it up.
I can, but I think you're.
Yeah, John's there.
John is
Yeah,
the
so
one-
the lease agreement would, and my understanding was that it was for the carriage house, and then
And the grounds?
And
the ground house.
And the
Right,
ground.
right, right.
Okay.
And so, once we get that, then I guess next board meeting, we'll have a draft. And then ultimately, if the board accepts it, say we don't make changes. Board accepts it, I guess in the meantime, the chair would sign it. And then I guess it would go to council for approval.
Ratification.
Okay.
So that would put it, when's council, so that would put, what do you mean, February, March? When are council?
That would be in
The next one is not after, so,
Well, we have one March 4th, but it's for choosing the city manager. So it's the first and third Monday of the month. The first Monday is the 2nd, which is next week.
the 16th, there's no meeting.
And then the 16th, there's no meeting?
No, there's only one in March, I think. There's only
So
one
I
in
think
March.
April 3rd or
Fourth,
6th,
third, yeah.
or 4th is the next
Okay,
week.
no, I just wanna make sure that that we hopefully get the draft for the next meeting so that it can be ready for that next council.
Which will probably be like April 2nd or 3rd, the first Monday.
The first Monday is the 6th.
No.
So then our meeting here, our next one would be March 31st, right? If we go by the schedule we've been going by.
Mhm.
So then, I don't know, maybe we can get that draft lease from legal prior to our meeting, so all of us can review it, and if we do have changes, we can make those changes right away. That way we don't miss the April 6th meeting.
Or we can even move it to March the 24th.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit more time in case we need to amend or change anything.
When is spring break? Okay, sorry.
16th.
Yeah, the
But
16th
it's
to
the
the 20th.
16th, so I won't.
Okay.
I won't.
So it's a week after spring break.
Like, that's always like my, sorry guys, can't do that.
I like that March 24th idea,
Okay.
if everybody was okay with it.
So that would be perfect, because items for the agenda are due on the 25th.
No.
Right.
Okay,
So if we have it and approved by then we'll meet the internal deadline for the April 6th meeting.
So the next meeting is April the 6th, not the 30th. Done.
No, the
Yeah,
LCIS,
April 6th.
oh, council meeting is
Council
April
meeting.
6th, LCIS meeting is the 24th.
Yes.
Okay, and then volunteers wanted to do a fundraising event soon. Is that something
Well, we
that
didn't-
How do we even do that? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a good question too.
I think we can do it as in, I mean, do we need, we can fundraise for LCIS, can't we?
But not on site.
Yeah,
Are we
Yeah.
allowed to do that on site?
on site.
On site,
At the garden.
I would assume we would need that lease agreement.
Yeah.
I don't know, but.
oh, we can ask permission, now we can ask permission to parks if they will allow us to do that.
Okay.
And I don't
There's
think,
a form,
Yeah, that's just a request form.
a request
Okay.
form, yeah.
we never mentioned fundraising at this point. I think somebody just had an idea for an event,
Event.
an educational event.
Oh, it's.
Or like
Okay, or a wellness.
where Chef Raquel would do a demonstration,
Okay.
a cooking demonstration. But
Ah,
that was just an idea, so we could further discuss that as volunteers.
You want to table that for the next meeting?
I'm sorry?
You want to table that for the next
Sure.
meeting?
okay. So wellness event, whatever that is, okay, for March 24th
Meeting, yes.
meeting.
Discussion.
And then Priscilla and I have been in touch with Agri Life Extension in College Station, actually. They came down to TAMU and they have talked to us about how can they better support the efforts for the food
System.
food system in Laredo. And so their goal, and I have talked with Guillermo because you're the chair of the council, right?
Yes.
The Healthy Living Council. But, I mean, as LCIS, we want to participate in this, and also at the city level, we want to participate through the Wellness Council. They will provide a day of action, so where all the entities can come together to the table and we have some kind of action plans so we can escalate this wellness initiative or food sustainability initiative through the gardens, like the different gardens, like the Camillo Garden, the Hillside, the Ganseco, there's a fasting garden. There are other gardens across the city, through the food bank, through the farmer's market. So all these different entities coming together to create some kind of action plan. The dates that they proposed, do you remember, Priscilla?
The dates that they proposed were April
7?
7, I think it was, 7, 8, and 9. Was it 2 days?
Yes, it's a 3 day, let me
And so a week prior to them coming down here, it would be those entities participating in a webinar. And in that webinar would just kind of be giving us tools of how to make these, how to strategize these plans all together for when we meet. It's kind of a little bit more efficient. And then once we meet, I think Ms. Uribe will give you the exact dates, but the week after that, there'll be another webinar on kind of how to wrap this up, how to package it and work towards the goals that were discussed at those.
And what is also important is, of course, having the organization and the plans, and they have been working with other communities, which I think is also really interesting. They have been working with other communities to develop these type of initiatives. So there's a lot of research that has been done. What are some of the best practices? But also they might have a little bit of seed money for each organization participating to actually activate these plans. So they might have a little bit of seed money for the farmers market in terms of creating some kind of banners whenever there's like a food market.
So I was talking to them a little bit about how we could use those seed monies, and They said maybe marketing, so maybe using public transportation. You know, whether it's like a little sign in public transportation letting people know that there is a farmer's market, or even sandwich boards, you know, to kind of designate people to the market. And then at the market, how are we sharing information about the gardens that are available and kind of all the resources. So it's really kind of creating a plan, a broad plan for all the entities. That way all the entities know kind of, okay, this is the main goal for our community as the city of Laredo. But each individual organization contributes in different ways, and then your individual organization can go back and kind of adjust your plans or whatever. Or maybe not, maybe you're right on track for it.
I really like that they're connecting the farmer's market distribution of information, because those are the people who are more than likely to appreciate the gardens, and even help them out. The farmer's market marketing, right? And our targeting is all around that. It's just trying to figure out who's going to be most likely. So if you can also help us by communicating to us what you've seen. I know you mentioned some of the characteristics, but anything else, any other behaviors that you notice or trends or demographics that can help us make that connection in terms of marketing would be very helpful.
Yeah.
What's the end event?
She has
Day of action.
Action Day event. So it's
And then, actually.
yeah. I want to have you with exactly the dates. I want to give you exactly the dates if I cannot find
Oh, it's
them.
not the 17th, maybe?
No, I mean, I think that's what it is, but right after this, I have them in my email, so
Yeah. I'm trying to find them. But it's a whole weekend. It might be 2 days, two or 3 full days of planning.
yeah, so they're, yeah.
So you'll send us an email?
Yeah, as soon as I get back to the office, I know I have them there, so.
Me too. I have it somewhere
Okay.
in my email. But I wanted to share with the board that that's part of the plan. And of course, that we are. And if, you also represent other entities that you can spread the word out about this person. And of course, coordinating with Guillermo in terms of the Wellness Council.
I want to bring up one more point before we. I know one of the other organizations in Laredo that's structured similarly to us is Ed Metro. I think is that correct? With local government corporation. I think they're.
Yeah, somebody said that.
I think we're the only 2 local government corporations. So maybe on the initial side, they saw some of the things that we're dealing with. Maybe we can reach out to them and ask them for some help with, should we appoint someone or have a guest from legal or
When
someone
was it
from
meant to
Metro?
establish?
Oh yeah, that's true. Like,
I don't know if any of those people are still with us, well, that's a long time.
yeah, but I mean, they might still have a system for all those address. Like we were talking about fundraising, we're not totally sure if we can or can't. We're pretty sure. So how do they handle any questions that they may have? Right? What's their system? They've been around for a while.
Is it also an LGC?
Yeah, I think we're the only 2.
A previous board member of ours of Main Street worked with the Metro. I can contact her. I don't know exactly what her position is now there, but I can see if she has any information.
Thank you.
I'll let everybody know.
So I know that we are all running late. I just missed my next meeting, but that's okay. So March the 24th is next meeting. We're gonna have the position announced, right? That's what we agreed on. And then Bobby will create a finance plan and John will work with Valeria for the lease agreement. So I run this meeting. Thank you so much for coming.
The next meeting will be,
March 24th. We haven't decided where. It could be here. It's not nice sitting here. We can work actually.
Yeah, here's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, well, can I see the sign-in sheet?
Just an FYI, we're getting ready to shore up that block wall on the backside. I know it's kind of all messed up. So we're gonna shore it up and then already have a mural that's gonna go in there, thanks to Cultivarte that had a contest and come up with somebody that would do it. I had gotten an original estimate of about $13,000 to fix that wall. And I thought that was way too expensive, and so we kept at it, and the latest figure is $5,300, so,
Oh, good.
The entire back wall?
yeah.
Okay. And what about all the, like the stones, there's all the scrap that's on the ground over there? Are we still talking about Conseco? Yeah, there's just a lot of various debris, yeah.
We'll clean it up, we'll get it cleaned up.
Yeah.
From the construction companies, so we'll get the construction companies.
We just gotta get with the engineering department, make sure they stay on it, as far as cleaning it up, and, you know, because they just pile it there and start adding up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been, for the year and a half that I've been there, it's the exact same pile, like, it's not new
Yeah.
stuff, it's, yeah, it's just blocks of concrete.
Let's send it,
Yeah, it was in,
let's send it to Rachel.
But even if that, like, if that were cleaned up, and I didn't say, like, if the Aloys, the porta potties were moved to the north, I don't know, I'm not sure what direction is what, but like, if you're walking in, it would be the northeast corner. If it were moved over there to the other side of the garden, and that stuff was cleaned out, it would look great.
okay, will you do me a favor, are you all gonna be there Saturday, this coming Saturday? Okay, will you kind of put your little notes to them, Mr. Navarro?
Yeah.
And tell them the suggestions so we can bring it to me on Monday?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll coordinate with the department and I'll take care of that.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Sheriff, if you want to contact him, I'll send you an email.
Okay, yeah.
Well, you know, your office is I'm out there.
Maybe I was just 13 on number 4.
Oh, perfect, they're gonna open up a new one, so they might be a really good, option, but I just kind of.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I guess maybe I should right, but when she emails me and I usually just I like leave it back. Respond directly, just like read it out. No, because it's not a big deal, and honestly, like, like, being really lazy about the position, like, so I just like putting in, like, Washington Post, or like, whatever it is, like, I'm like, yeah, get it done, but I need to, like, be more on top of that, so, like, once, look at that email, I'll, like, get in contact with you, explain any questions they have about that.
Just so they can feel a little more like.
Yeah.
Because I had feel super bad, because I know, I'm sure that puts you in, like, you're expecting something, and then.
I mean, I know it's better to have, like, definitely not the No, I know that it's not your fault, like, you know,
And believe me, I'm not calling them like, have you seen this? Just like, no, thank you so much. And we want to continue, it's just a matter of like, trying to walk people that will want to do Again, our objective is to try to like positive. So like, so I like this little bottom and I was like, I didn't know we would have this was like, but totally so like, yeah, but he did a really good job at like making that balance. Like there is obstacles that we're not like, that's what we're working for is to like, but there's he did it, whenever it comes like,
I kind of like getting to raise like
his spelling.
We try
What do you want to say?
Just like it's inner city instead of intercity initiative. And then like a couple of things that I said just sound like written.
That's the one. Sorry. So like, yeah, I get like,
And when I
sorry. Oh my God.
Good to see you, but again,
Thank you so much.
You know, how long does
I'm sorry, thank you so much. Thank you.
You too.
I wanted to ask in case we need to contact you, because I was thinking that sometimes we have a lot of since Bernie and if it's only 4 members,
I know, no, we're more than happy.
we would love to have you contact. A pen? You wanna?
Like a paper?
Yeah, you can.
Shut down. No, my sister's coming into town.
So, yeah, we usually do 4:30.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the next, that is if you're really mixing it.
Okay.
Nice meeting you.
Contamination.
Yeah, my name.
I think what we're looking at doing is maybe what Austin has done. Multiple cities have done, but we gotta do it on the commercial side. We gotta do it.
I have
For now.
just in case.
My hands are.
I have a meeting.
Best from
Yeah.
basically dictates
And let us know, like,
how they're going to apply herbicides.
I mean, let me try your pen, your pen's probably
from
better.
the state for volleyball.
I think that will suffice for our
I
requirement.
should have my cards, but I
And I'm not
just
talking
did a
about,
presentation at the Rotary and I left all my cards.
Nobody can.
The bookstore.
To achieve.
The kiosk that they have at the building. How old is she?
My
A
assistant
simple
director.
plan, and we can say.
Okay, she should do a sleep at over at
Get you in contact with her, that way it's just direct connection.
Olga
Joining
Jeju
with me at
is very
Rotary.
involved.
I'll get you, send me a text and I'll get you in contact with her. So the kind of the way we, as I mentioned before, was we would sell the produce for sensitive. But now, like in this aspect, I remove myself from LCU, I guess right now, I'm like.
Oh, no, thank you.
We would sell the produce for it, and then whatever revenue came from that, we would sell it off. But because there was no bank account or anything for LCUAS, but now those revenues can go into the bank account and can go to feed like
This whole room would be
stuff like
great.
that. So anything that has extra will just go back into
It's originally this, I don't know what you call it, seafoam green or whatever.
Yeah,
So we
call me
decided,
sample.
no,
Anything
great.
extra, we know that you all do all the work, so you all take
Want to
whatever
redo the
you guys
flowers.
take, and that's fine.
So hopefully it'll be one of those.
Even if it's little by little, $20 or $30 here, but I mean, that's.
But yeah, comments.
Anything you have, extra, please call me, we'll pick it up, we'll go to you, we'll do whatever, so anything you need.
Minimize harm in areas where, people and animals